Hi everyone, welcome to The Raw Key. If you're new to our channel, thank you for joining us. Our videos are all about achieving vibrant health by living naturally. We hope that you find our videos valuable and informative. Today's video is about embracing our self-healing body, and we're going to cover the nature and purpose of disease and the 7 stages of disease in today's presentation. Today's presentation is going to cover defining disease, the nature and purpose of disease, the progressive nature of disease, the 7 stages of disease, treatment versus removal of cause, and how we lift the burden to prevent and reverse disease. My name is Lauren, and before we begin, I'd like to share a little bit about me and my experience in this area. So I struggled with my health throughout my youth and well into my 30s, but through it all, I knew innately that humans are not meant to suffer disease as we do. I was determined to find the key to why humans suffer and to return my body to a state of health. In the mid-2000s, I began my journey back to health by reading hundreds of books on natural health and healing, textbooks on physiology, anatomy, biology, and chemistry, and tens of thousands of medical journal articles, orthomolecular medicine, natural health journals, and all other materials that I could find on the subjects of health and disease. In 2011, I discovered the long-suppressed science of natural hygiene, which explains how the body's detoxification, healing, and repair processes operate. Natural hygiene also lays out the natural diet based on our anatomy and physiology, and explains how straying from this natural diet impacts the ability of our cells to operate. The natural health community of today owes its existence to the natural hygienists and nature cure advocates of the last 150 years, but very few in the natural health community even know the history of where the community's foundational knowledge stems from. As a result of all of this study, I was able to heal a long list of medical disease labels, including a golf ball size mass in my breast, IBS, chronic pain, chronic fatigue, chronic migraines, debilitating anxiety, suicidal thoughts, and a long list of other health complaints. I went from chronically ill to thriving with abundant energy by learning how the body operates and by stopping the use of all the poisons which were keeping my body from being able to clean and heal as it was designed to do. After successfully healing myself and with all of the abundant energy that I now had, I started to foster senior and hospice dogs. Seeing the massive issues of chronic and debilitating disease in shelter pets, I sought to put those same principles into place to heal these dogs and cats. Taking in dogs with terminal cancer, including Happy, who you'll see in the picture in the top left corner. She had a grapefruit-sized mass on her spleen and a vet diagnosis of days to a few weeks to live. And then the picture just below her is Elizabeth. Elizabeth came to me with tumors on every single mammary gland and a pyometra. And then top right is Bean. He came to me with seizures, dementia. He was blind and deaf. And then on the bottom right is Dixie and Dexter. Dixie was super morbidly obese and had breathing issues. She was unable to go up and down the stairs. And Dexter was also super morbidly obese, and he had a grade 5 heart murmur. And these are just some of the dogs that I took in, and you can see there was this chronic issue of just chronic disease and obesity in shelter pets. And so following the same principles of natural hygiene that I used to heal myself, I was able to return each of these dogs to pristine health and many more. So we've taken in dogs with heart murmurs, hernias, vestibular disease, autoimmune diseases, and a long list of other chronic and terminal disease conditions. And all of them, regardless of the medical label, responded to the principles of natural hygiene. And when we put the conditions of health into place, all of the dogs returned to a state of health. One after another, regardless of the medical disease label, each one returned to pristine health with abundant energy, running around like puppies again, when the medical industry deemed them to be beyond help. So blind dogs regained their sight, deaf dogs their hearing, seizures stopped, tumors dissolved and expelled themselves through the skin, heart conditions reversed course, every malfunction returned to normal. So following the principles of the science of natural hygiene and putting them all back on their natural diets, I was able to successfully return 27 dogs so far with chronic and terminal conditions, and all of them returned to pristine health. So in addition to my own rescues, I have also helped thousands of dog and cat owners to return their dogs back to pristine health. So over the past decade, with all of the information that I've learned, I've felt compelled to share this information to get it out to as many people as possible so that no one has to suffer. So a list of a few of my current and ongoing projects. In 2012, I started my first health-based website teaching people everything I learned about healing my own body. In 2018, I started teaching how to heal dogs and cats from cancer and chronic disease by following the science of natural hygiene and a return to the natural species-appropriate diet. In 2020, I took over as the administrator of the Terrain Model Refutes Germ Theory group on Facebook, teaching people how disease is created and reversed. In 2021, I started therawkey.com to reach more people with this life-saving information. In 2023, I started the Natural Dog and Cat Diet with CB Rescue and therawkey.com on Facebook to help more people heal their dogs and cats. I'm currently writing the book Healing Dogs and Cats with Their Natural Diet, which details my experiences with each of the dogs and teaches the science of healing. I also offer affordable consultations for people who wish to return their bodies to a state of health or those who wish to assist their pets in healing by returning to the natural species-appropriate diet. If you're interested in a consultation, they can be booked on my website, therawkey.com. I also run a monthly support group which seeks to help people from all backgrounds transition to the natural human diet, and information about that support group can also be found on therawkey.com. Okay, so now that you know a little bit about me and my experience, let's just jump right into the presentation. So starting off with, what is disease? So disease is the combination of two words, dis meaning lack of, and ease meaning comfort. The word disease simply means a body not at ease or a body in a state of discomfort. And to quote T.C. Fry, a person is uncomfortable or suffering difficulties in maintaining energies for the functions he wishes to discharge and in keeping operative those faculties he wishes to exercise. In physiology, disease refers to deviation from normal. The body has deviated from regular functions and is operating outside of normal parameters. The cellular function has become impaired, and the body has rechanneled or redirected its energies so that there is less energy available for the functions normally engaged in. There are two distinct types of disease symptoms that can occur when our body is in a state of disease. The first type serves a purpose, while the second type serves none. Constructive disease symptoms, the first type, are often called acute disease, and these symptoms are a result of the body's attempts to rid itself of excess cellular debris. The second type is degenerative disease symptoms. These are often called chronic disease, and they result from organic impairment of the organs, tissues, bones, or other faculties which have undergone destruction, distortion, or irreversible impairment. So in the first type of disease symptom, the body is trying to return itself to a place of health, whereas in the second type of symptom, the degenerative symptom, the body is malfunctioning due to damage that has been done to the cellular structures, the tissues, or the organs. When we speak of disease in the science of natural hygiene, we are speaking of the physiological definition. There is only one disease, lack of ease of the body. Disease is any deviation from normal, correct operating conditions. In the modern for-profit disease industry, there exists hundreds of disease labels: heart disease, diabetes, cancer, asthma, colds, flus, etc. These are not individual diseases, as only one disease exists. These are instead collections of symptoms that, when occurring together, are given a label to describe the collection of symptoms. The purpose of a disease label in medicine is to allow for the legal application of poisons to the patient's body, which the medical industry calls medications or pharmaceuticals, from the Greek pharmakeia, meaning poison, witchcraft, sorcery. In this presentation, when talking about disease, we will be talking about the condition of a body operating outside of normal parameters and not the medical labels grouping symptoms. In the next section of the video, we're going to be covering the nature and purpose of disease, including the concepts that disease is started by the body, disease symptoms are an eliminative process, disease is progressive and degenerative, disease is not caused by bacteria or viruses, disease is not contagious, and disease is not a mystery. Disease is started by the body. All action is taken by the body. When we eat food, the food takes no action against the body. Instead, it is the action of the body that digests, assimilates, and eliminates the food. When bodily integrity is compromised or threatened by an accumulation of uneliminated toxic materials, the body institutes a cleaning process, which natural hygienists refer to as a healing crisis or healing event. The level of vitality of the individual and the extent of the overload of toxic materials determines the type of healing crisis. A body with high vitality, like an infant, tolerates a very low level of toxicity and institutes expulsion events frequently. In infants, colds are frequent, rashes of childhood and common childhood illnesses like measles and chickenpox are body-initiated healing events that result from an excess of proteins in the diet and other dietary indiscretions. A body with low vitality, as we see in adults and seniors, has less energy available for frequent cleaning. The levels of waste tolerated grow larger as the vitality decreases. In seniors and many adults, colds are infrequent, and when they do occur, they are longer in duration and more severe in symptoms. Because so few older people maintain vital bodies, the toxic overload drags them down into chronic and degenerative disease. Instead of the frequent colds of childhood to clean out the mistakes in living we all make in modern society, the body lacks the energy required to keep up with the daily cleaning of cellular waste, toxins, and debris, and so the body is pushed into impaired function and degeneration. The body must be in a toxic state before it will institute a crisis of healing. Neither bacteria nor anything else starts and sustains a crisis. The role of bacteria and viruses will be covered in a few minutes. Remember, the body takes all action. Only our own actions in misfeeding the body and failing to meet the body's basic needs can create disease. We cannot catch disease from another. Our health is always 100% under our control. Disease is an eliminative process. The body will reject anything that is irritating. If you inhale a bit of dust, the body will secrete a bit of mucus to surround and eject the irritant. You sneeze, or your nose will run to expel the irritant from the body. In both cases, the body is acting defensively to expel a toxic or irritating substance. When an irritant is eaten, your body will respond with expulsion symptoms of the digestive tract to eliminate the foreign or toxic materials, resulting in vomiting or diarrhea. When an excess of cellular debris, toxins, and waste products builds up around the cells in the extracellular spaces, the body will initiate a clean-out, resulting in a cold or a flu detox event, which combines many cleaning processes: sneezing, coughing, mucus to wrap the toxins for expulsion. Bacteria is brought in to break down larger waste particles into smaller particles. Fever as a result of the frenzy of activity. These eliminative processes are part of the body's detoxification system. Common expulsion symptoms of detoxification include coughing, sneezing, mucus production, rashes, vomiting, diarrhea, and fever. The body creates a healing crisis in response to a need to free itself of toxic matters and repair damages. To quote T.C. Fry, people sometimes ask when cancer begins. Hygienists or life scientists say that it begins with the first cold or rash of childhood. The first crisis a baby endures begins the pathological chain that leads to cancer. This evolutionary chain begins then because the phenomenon of life is one constant violation of the laws of life from beginning to end. As we misfeed our body 3 meals a day for many years, disease conditions steadily increase. Much like a hoarder's house becomes progressively less habitable the more they collect. At first, the room is just cluttered, but a few years later, the room becomes impassable. Eventually, even just walking through the house becomes a struggle. This occurs gradually and progressively as the hoarder brings in just a few more pieces each day. The solution isn't to cut open the house or to try to burn the contents. It's to throw things away in the garbage and gradually utilize the appropriate channels to get rid of excess junk. Our cells are designed to work within specific conditions provided by the natural human diet and our natural lifestyle. The further we stray from those natural conditions, the harder each of our cells needs to work to maintain normal operations. All living things must consume and eliminate. The same is true of our cells. As each cell operates, it is brought nutrients from the blood supply, it utilizes those materials, and creates waste products as a result. Those waste products are expelled from the cell into the extracellular fluid surrounding the cell. This is the terrain that the cell resides and operates within. Under normal conditions, the waste is eliminated via the lymphatic system, and the fluids remain clean and clear for easy operation of the cell. However, the longer we misfeed our body, the more waste the cells produce, and the less effectively the waste is eliminated. Waste elimination requires energy. We have a limited supply of energy each day to perform all bodily processes. Digestion is the largest energy drain on the body. When we eat our natural foods, they digest quickly and cleanly, requiring little digestive energy. This means in our normal state, under normal conditions, little energy is wasted on digestion and plenty is available for the elimination processes, as well as normal day-to-day activity. When we eat substances that are outside of the natural human diet, these substances tax the digestive system, requiring far more effort and energy to digest, assimilate, and expel. As these foods are not built for our nutritional requirements, much energy is wasted on the expulsion of the materials, while little is gained from the usable materials. This results in a deficit of energy available for the other normal daily processes of the body, including the normal detoxification processes. As we continue to eat outside of our natural design, the excess waste created by the forced digestion of inappropriate substances creates an excess of waste in the extracellular fluids. The extra drain on energy means the body has less energy to clean out the extracellular spaces, and therefore a backlog occurs. In addition, most inappropriate for our physiology foods are low in water content, leading to dehydration of the body and the intracellular and extracellular fluids. This further slows the elimination of waste from the area around the cells, concentrating the waste products and further impairing their elimination. As the area surrounding the cells becomes more saturated with waste, the functions of the cells are impaired. Normal operations become impeded, energy production becomes less efficient, the cells struggle to intake sugar and nutrients, and cells wear out and die off at a faster rate, adding even more cellular waste to the extracellular fluids. As these conditions progressively increase over days, weeks, months, and years, the conditions of disease progress. If the conditions creating the disease are not corrected, then the body moves through the 7 stages of disease, starting with enervation, a state of fatigue, and progressing eventually to what we call cancer, where the cells are no longer cooperating with the body because their primary focus is their own survival in the toxic conditions provided. Disease is degenerative. As mentioned earlier, there are two types of disease symptoms. Constructive symptoms, like cold detox and flu detox, are how the body cleans and heals from the backlog of waste. These are also called expulsion symptoms. While these symptoms are entirely avoidable when properly feeding our body, they are a remediation process of the body's detoxification system and are never harmful to the body. They are the solution created by the body through its normal detoxification processes as a response to the improper conditions being provided to the body. However, if we continuously misfeed our body on cooked foods, animal tissues and secretions, refined substances, and chemicals, the body will eventually reach a point where it no longer has the energy to perform constructive eliminations, and it will instead progress into degenerative disease. In degenerative disease, there is organic impairment of the organs, tissues, bones, or other faculties due to damage, destruction, or distortion of the cells, tissues, or organs. Arthritic bony deposits, destruction of the pancreas in diabetes, ruptures of blood vessels, tumors, and scar tissue are all examples of degenerative conditions. Some degenerative conditions are reversible if action is taken quickly to remove the cause of disease conditions, while other degenerative conditions are not repairable. Disease is not caused by bacteria. Microorganisms are incapable of unified action. In fact, they cannot exist where there is no food, soil, for them, and living cells are not soil for bacteria. Bacteria inside our body has the same function as bacteria in nature. Bacteria is the recycling team of nature, breaking down waste, organisms, cellular debris, and other larger particles into its smaller constituent parts. The bacteria that proliferate in a healing crisis are with us all the time. They are our own cells, which the body brings to the area of injured tissue to break down and recycle the cellular materials, to break down toxins, and to assist in the elimination of waste. Bacteria inside the body is under the control of the body, is increased based upon the needs of the body, and decreased once the need for their use has passed. Just as bacteria in our digestive tract is created and controlled by the body based on the needs of the body at that moment, as a reflection of the foods we ate, the bacteria used in healing and detoxification processes is created by the body on demand to meet the needs of the body. We harbor uncounted billions of more microorganisms in our intestinal tract, on our skin, in our mouth, nose, and throat, and all other body cavities. Every bacteria present at the time of a healing event, like a cold or flu, is present in the body in times of health. Bacteria do not invade organisms. They are always within the organism. The bacteria that ferments the rotting apple comes from the apple itself. The bacteria that turns cabbage into sauerkraut is present on the cabbage and proliferates when it is time to break down the plant and return it to dust. The bacteria causes no harm to the cabbage that is fresh, but when decomposition begins, the bacteria rapidly proliferates. When an animal dies in the forest, the bacteria within starts the decomposition processes immediately, but not before life has ceased. The human body is a very rough environment for bacteria. The body keeps its bacteria restricted within certain bounds. It is in complete control of all internal bacteria at all times. The body's defensive systems keep any foreign bacteria from entering the system. Just as the speck of dust is wrapped in mucus immediately upon entry to any orifice, the bacteria or microorganism of foreign provenance is caught in the body's many defensive filters long before it can enter the body proper. Inhaled bacteria is caught by the mucus of the nose. Ingested bacteria is rapidly rushed from the body via diarrhea or vomiting if we eat rotten food. All outward-facing openings on the body have defensive filters to keep foreign material out of the body. A speck of dust or a microorganism in the eye is expelled with tears, in the throat with a cough, and in the nose with a sneeze. Disease is also not caused by viruses. Viruses are spent cellular debris, very small portions of a cell which have been damaged and broken apart for recycling to be used by the surrounding cells. Viruses are not alive, have never been observed alive, and contain no nucleus, a requisite to life, and as such have no ability to perform actions. No virus has ever been isolated and purified, and it's never been conclusively proven that viruses are the cause of so-called viral illness. No experiments have ever verified that viral particles cause disease. No viral material has ever met the standards of disease causation, Koch's postulates. There may be detectable virus material present when certain disease conditions are in place, but this material is also present when they are not in place. Correlation is not always causation. Our bodies are always breaking apart our cells and recycling some parts and rejecting others. So if we run a PCR test with enough cycles, we'll always see a positive result. For more information on the history and science of viruses and viral disease, see the books in the resources at the end of the presentation. Disease is not contagious. Diseases are not contagious in any sense simply because they are body instituted. We cannot transfer our toxic load to someone else. Your dietary indiscretions cannot be transferred to the person sitting next to you. They are your burden to bear and yours alone. As medicine learns more, diseases become less and less contagious. Asthma, cancer, psoriasis, meningitis, poliomyelitis, and a long list of other diseases have come off the contagious list. Measles, chickenpox, colds, flu, leprosy, and a number of other things are still deemed contagious by the disease-for-profit industry, and a profitable business they have built upon this idea. The problem with their claim is that the symptoms created by the body's detoxification processes just happen to be the same symptoms that are lumped together and are labeled as colds and flu. Even the detoxification rash created by the body is blamed on measles, chickenpox, scarlet fever, foot and mouth, or any number of other disease labels depending on the time of year, age of the patient, or other similar factors. Why then do we sometimes get a cleaning event at the same or similar time as a family member or friend? The answer is quite simple. The same exposure to poisons results in similar reactions by bodies that share a limited scope of cleaning processes. In other words, you eat the same meals, drink the same water, and breathe the same air, and so you are exposed to the same poisons, toxins, and irritants at or around the same time. You also follow the same holidays. Cold and flu season runs from Halloween to Easter, the time in which people traditionally binge upon the heaviest of burden foods. Disease is not a mystery. The for-profit medical industrial complex presents the idea of disease as just an unfortunate mishap, bad luck with no known cause. When you go to the doctor, they don't explain to you step by step how your disease was built. In fact, in most cases, they cannot tell you how the disease happened at all. They simply tell you that it is luck of the draw, you just got unlucky, bad genes, or some other lie that keeps you from understanding the cause and having any ability to support your body back to a state of health. The reality is, though, your disease started long, long ago. In fact, your disease started with the first cry of the discomfort of infancy. The first colic, the first indigestion, the first burping and spitting up as your parents held you in their arms. You were too young to communicate to your parents the pain their food choices were causing you. By the time you reach an age where you can communicate, you have been conditioned to experience the pain of eating inappropriate foods as normal and even enjoyable. You get accustomed to the stimulating and depressing effects of foods, using them to get you high or calm you down. You have your comfort foods, which cause discomfort to the body. Stimulant drugs like coffee to get you through the day, and fatty foods like pizza, cake, candy bars, and macaroni and cheese to depress your system and calm your nerves. We go from meal to meal, pushing the body to extremes, draining our nerve energy, creating an excess of waste, and slowly grinding our bodies down with all of our enervating practices. Meal after meal, the toxic substances compounded within the body. This leads to more toxic conditions with less vitality to remove the injurious substances. Early in life, your body responded with rashes and frequent colds. Eventually, protein poisoning sepsis, better known as chickenpox, measles, mumps, or scarlet fever, came and went. Detox rashes, eczema, colds, fevers, and flu came and went throughout childhood, but still we stuff the child with cooked and denatured foods, ignoring warning after warning of the body in distress, because that is the tradition. As we reach adolescence, the energy to produce frequent cleanouts, aka colds, lags, and our colds become less frequent. By our teen years, we are rarely having them even yearly. Our bodies have moved from stages 1 and 2 of disease, the constructive symptoms, the expulsion symptoms, and we are moving into the chronic and degenerative conditions. We start to experience acne as our chronically dehydrated lymph gets backed up and our fat-laden diet clogs up our elimination pathways. We get more and more frequent headaches, our energy lags, we need coffee, tea, or other stimulants to make it through each day, or we stimulate ourselves in other ways with exercise or drugs. We no longer possess the vibrant energy of youth, yet here we ignore our body's cries yet again. Our body screams at us for rest, physical and physiological rest, fasting, abstaining from any more poisons going into our mouth for just a short while. Instead, we drink more coffee to stay awake, alcohol or pot to go to sleep, eat refined sugar for a rush, and eat heavy, fatty meals to bring us back down. We set the body on a constant roller coaster of stimulants and depressants. We develop aches and pains, basic movements become more difficult, we wake up with sore muscles, we pull a muscle simply walking or getting up off the couch, we call it normal aging, it's anything but normal, common maybe, but normal it is not. Every step along the way, we are taught to ignore the warnings, and then we are taken by surprise when our body suddenly fails us. Disease is progressive, building day by day, 3 meals per day, with every bite of cooked, processed, and denatured foods you put in your mouth. Just as disease progresses in a negative direction, health can be achieved progressively as well. By abstaining from that which creates disease, from stopping the input of poisons, by supplying the basic needs of life, we can walk back the progress of disease, we can return to a state of health, we can recover the vibrant energy of our youth, but we have to start listening to our body, and to do so, we need to know what to listen for. Disease is never an accident. It is the result of many hundreds and thousands of mistakes in living that we make day after day, year after year, because of the false things we have been taught. Disease is reversible and 100% in your control if you learn how to eliminate the mistakes you have been taught. In the next section of the video, we're going to be covering the 7 stages of disease. A body in a state of disease progresses through various stages as the conditions worsen and the burden compounds on the body. The underlying cause of all stages is toxemia and toxicosis. Toxemia is the poisoning of the blood, while toxicosis is the poisoning of the tissues, cells, and interstitial spaces. Toxemia and toxicosis exist because of insufficient nerve energy to sufficiently eliminate exogenous poisons and cellular wastes. In short, there is more cellular waste being created and more toxins in the system than the normal detoxification processes can handle, and there is insufficient nerve energy to expel those wastes. The 7 stages begins with enervation. Our fund of nerve energy becomes overdrawn to the point that the body is unable to eliminate the toxic byproducts of metabolism. Second stage is toxicosis and toxemia. The blood and tissues become loaded with uneliminated toxic materials from the body metabolism and or from toxins taken in from processed foods, drinks, drugs, etc. Stage 3 is irritation. Irritation takes the form of itchiness, edginess, uncomfortable feelings. A burst of activity will result in an effort to rid the body of these unwanted irritants. These are commonly referred to as cold and flu symptoms. Stage 4 is inflammation. In inflammation, the toxicants have usually been concentrated in an organ or area for a massive expulsive effort. Inflammation is a healing activity and eliminative effort. The 4th stage of disease is the body's most intense effort to cleanse and restore itself. The 5th stage of disease is ulceration. During this stage, poisonous matters have begun destroying cells and cellular organizations, tissues. The body may use an ulcer as an outlet for extraordinary toxic buildup, thereby relieving itself. It will heal the ulcer if causes are discontinued or if the toxicity level is lowered significantly. Stage 6, induration. This is the hardening where the body creates tumorous tissues or scar tissue to bridge the lost tissue that was destroyed by ulceration and to encapsulate the poisonous materials that are destroying the tissue. The ulcer and the toxic materials are sealed off by hardening of the tissue around them. Stage 7 is cancer. The 7th stage is the final stage of disease. Body vitality is at a very low ebb. Cells are no longer under the control of the body's master control system, and they multiply wildly in an unorganized manner without purpose. Stage 1, enervation. The first stage of disease is often overlooked or considered to be normal due to the chronic disease conditions that are present in most humans starting in early childhood and continuing throughout life. Enervation, also called nervous exhaustion, is a state in which the body is either not generating sufficient nerve energy for the tasks the body must perform, or the tasks the body must perform are greater than the normal nerve energy supply available. In either case, the body becomes impaired, and an impaired body generates less energy if the conditions of overwork or undergeneration persist. Sleep regenerates nerve energy, so insufficient sleep can result in nerve energy depletion. Overworking the body through exercise or strain can rapidly diminish nerve energy. Overworking the cells in the digestion process is the largest strain on our nerve energy. If the supply of nerve energy becomes depleted or otherwise insufficient to cope with the needs of the body, then body functions become impaired, including the processes of elimination of both endogenous metabolic wastes and exogenous poisons introduced into the body. This impairment begets further impairment, including diminishing the body's ability to restore depleted nerve energy. The less energy available to clean, the less energy the body can produce, leading to progressively worsening conditions, eventually reaching stage 2 of disease, toxemia or toxicosis. Stage 2, toxemia and toxicosis. When toxic substances from cellular metabolism or exogenous poisons saturate the blood and tissues, the lymph system and interstitial fluids, then the conditions of toxemia and toxicosis exist. Toxemia is the poisoning of the blood, while toxicosis is the poisoning of the tissues, cells, and interstitial spaces. As part of the normal everyday functions of the individual cells, our body generates a tremendous amount of toxic byproducts. Carbon dioxide and acid is generated by many body processes. Lactic acid is generated upon the use of our muscles. As the cells recycle themselves through the normal course of cell life and death, they release amino acids, some of which can be reused and others become cellular waste. Many components of the decomposed cell are toxic and must be eliminated. These cell fragments are what the medical industry calls viruses and attribute various functions which are biologically impossible for an inert object to accomplish. Tissue and blood saturation are caused by both the internally generated wastes and the pollutants taken in from outside, which the body was unable to eject via the defensive systems. The more our cells work, the faster they break down and the more waste they generate. Overworking the cells by consuming foods that are not suited to our physiology generates excess cellular waste and impairs the elimination of cellular waste via the draining of the available nerve energy. We can also drain our nerve energy by overworking our body and ignoring its needs for rest, getting insufficient sleep, being subjected to chronic stress or emotional trauma. When sufficient waste builds and is not eliminated fast enough, we move into the third stage, irritation. Stage 3, irritation. Irritation is a result of toxic material being sensed by our nerve network. These early warning symptoms are commonly ignored or brushed off, especially by the medical community, but if heeded and corrected, would prevent the development of chronic disease. When we feel itchy, queasy, jumpy, anxious, uneasy, or we have bothersome but not painful areas of the body, red skin, or general feelings of discomfort, our body is in the third stage of disease, irritation. Tickling of the nose from inhaling a bit of dust is a form of irritation. Collections of mucus along the mucous membranes irritate. The irritation is not painful, but is a gentle prod that moves us to seek comfort. It is a warning from the body of the growing discomfort and the need for remedy. The urge to urinate or pass stool is also a form of mild irritation. When wastes accumulate in the bladder or bowels greater than the body feels comfortable with, then we feel an irritation that forces action. When the wastes being eliminated are more acidic and irritating, there is a much greater urge to urinate. And when the conditions of disease grow, it can result in frequent, urgent urination or incontinence due to the urgent need to expel the acidic waste matter from the body before it further injures the surrounding cells of the bladder or delicate tissues of the bowels. The body uses irritation to urge us into corrective action. If we obey this command from the body and correct our diet and lifestyle actions, then the toxic materials will be eliminated quickly and the state of ease will return to the body. Irritation can come as a result of the buildup of internal waste from normal cellular functions or from an exogenous external source. When a person drinks too much alcohol, we say that he or she is intoxicated. That's a good example of exogenous intoxication. While all alcohol intake is damaging to the organism, the body can rapidly eliminate a small amount before much damage has occurred. However, if we increase the intake, then the elimination is proportionately less than the intake and the damage proportionately greater. The first sips of alcohol cause only minor irritation, which we also call stimulation. But any toxic material, salt, caffeine, alcohol, spices, hot peppers, or condiments, will irritate and stimulate. Stimulation is a condition in which the body sets in motion its defensive mechanisms and accelerates its internal activities. This can be compared to the red alert upon a ship, where all hands are summoned and a frenzy of activity takes place to defend the ship. Unfortunately, this frenzy of activity of the cells working to eliminate the poison also results in a release of endorphins, fight or flight chemicals, which often make us feel good, hyper, or even euphoric. Unfortunately, a euphoric condition arises out of a situation that is damaging to the organism due to the fight or flight response. This euphoria can drive a misplaced idea that the body is not being seriously injured and can occasion further abuse instead of a correction of abuse. If the causes of irritation remain in place and the body can't eliminate the cause rapidly enough, then the body initiates a responsive crisis called inflammation, the fourth stage of the disease process. Stage 4, inflammation. This is usually the stage in which physicians recognize pathology and where the patient becomes keenly aware of a problem due to the pain that can no longer be ignored. Inflammation also commonly involves a redirection of vital energies, and therefore normal day-to-day activities can no longer be performed due to fatigue. The intestinal tract is closed down, and nausea may be used by the body to force the halted intake of food, so the body can stop the influx of waste long enough to make repairs. The energy that would normally be available for digestion is redirected to the massive effort to cope with and expel the backlog of waste. The body focuses all energy on the expulsion of the waste because if it does not, the body will be in mortal danger or in danger of permanent damage to the affected organ. In other cases, fatigue becomes severe to force the body into a state of rest. Muscle weakness can occur, and the person is forced to take to bed and rest. allowing the body to regenerate nerve energy and catch up on the massive backlog of waste. In cases of cold or flu healing events, the symptoms, fatigue, inflammation of the sinuses, and nausea continue until the body has sufficiently rid itself of enough waste to return to normal operations. In inflammation, the toxins have usually been concentrated in an organ or area for a massive expulsive effort. The area becomes inflamed due to the constant irritation of the toxic materials. When inflammation exists, the medical label is an itis, appendicitis, tonsillitis, hepatitis, or nephritis, for example. Note that the itises listed are all due to overburdening of 4 different organs of purification and elimination: the appendix, tonsils, part of the lymphatic system, liver, and the kidneys. The names of the itises are usually after the organ or tissue area that is inflamed. Thus, if we have a cold, we have rhinitis. If we have inflammation of the sinus cavities, we have sinusitis. If we have inflammation of bronchial tissue, we have either bronchitis or asthma. We have these specific pathologies because in each case, the body elected to eliminate the extraordinary toxic load through the organ affected. The condition is chronic because the toxic condition is unceasing. The person never corrects their diet to lift the burden from the body, so the body can never catch up on its backlog and complete the detoxification processes. While the person continues to intoxicate themselves beyond the capabilities of the primary elimination channels, the body continues to eliminate the overload through the inflamed organ or secondary elimination channels. Fever is a common symptom in stage 4. Inflammation and fever are body crisis responses to a life-threatening situation. The body and the body alone create fever. Fever is evidence of the increased and intense body activities directed at cleansing and repair. The extraordinary energies employed for a fever are at the expense of energies normally involved in digestion, work or play, thinking, and other normal daily activities. To quote T.C. Fry, fever is a healing activity. The idea of suppressing it is equivalent to hitting a drowning man over the head so he'll cease his struggles. For instance, if rhinitis or influenza sufferers are drugged, it amounts to hitting the body's healer over the head. Thus, the eliminative effort is suppressed and the toxicity increases until other organs, usually the lungs, become saturated, not only with the toxicity, but with the drugs administered as well. When body vitality reasserts itself, a condition known as pneumonia is likely to result. Inflammation is the 4th stage of disease and is the body's most intense effort to cleanse and restore itself. If allowed to complete without harmful interventions, the body will successfully eliminate the conditions of disease and return to a state of at or near health. However, if the inflammation is not allowed to progress, if the person consumes drugs or anti-inflammatory foods, herbs, or other natural products to suppress this healing symptom, then the body will continue to the 5th stage of disease, ulceration, which is destructive and degenerative. We will discuss further at the end of the presentation why treatments that suppress the body's healing processes are not conducive to health. Stage 5, ulceration. Ulceration is the 1st stage of degenerative disease. Ulceration means that cell and tissue structures are being destroyed at a rate faster than the body can replace them. Physiological systems are destroyed due to the cell's inability to live in an unceasing, unremedied, toxic terrain. Where tissue is destroyed, there remains a void. One example is a canker sore of the mouth. Lesions or ulcers can occur in other areas of the body also. For example, the stomach ulcer or ulcerations of unhealed wounds in a diabetic, or the bed sores of an invalid. These conditions are often intensely painful due to the exposed nerves and high levels of cellular injury. In some cases, the body may use an ulcer as part of the detoxification process as a result of an extraordinary toxic buildup, relieving the waste load externally. The body will heal an ulcer if causes are removed, diet is corrected, and lifestyle factors are corrected, and its toxicity level is significantly lowered. The process of repairing the damage from an ulcer is called induration, which is the 6th stage of disease. Stage 6, induration. Induration is a hardening of tissue or the filling in of tissue vacancy with hard tissue. Scarring is a form of induration. In this stage of disease, there is direction and purpose in hardening. The space is filled, and the toxic materials that threaten bodily integrity are encapsulated in a sac of hardened tissue. The ulcer and the toxic materials are sealed off by the hardening of the tissue around them. This is a way of quarantining toxic materials, often called tumor formation. Most of the diagnoses of cancer fall within the 6th stage of disease, even though no cancer exists. Induration is the last stage during which the body exerts intelligent control. Should the pathogenic practices which brought matters to this stage be continued, the wrong feeding of the body, then the cells and tissue systems go rogue. Instead of working in concert with the surrounding cells, they shift into individual survival mode, every cell for itself. If the causes of disease conditions are not remedied, the cells can become parasitic, living off the nutrients they can obtain from the lymph fluid, but contributing nothing to the body's economy. They have become disorganized. Their ability to cooperate has been altered by the poisons. Thus, they are not capable of intelligent, normal, organized activities within the context of a vital body economy. When cells go rogue in this manner, the condition is called cancer. Stage 7, cancer. The final stage of the evolution of disease is cancer. It is the last stage of disease, and if the causes of disease are not rapidly removed, true cancer is usually fatal. The body simply cannot continue to operate when the cells cannot cooperate. Removal of causes and indulgence of healthful practices may arrest the progress of cancer if they can revitalize the body enough that it can destroy the cancer cells. But ideal conditions must be put into place, and no further injury to the body from poisons, cooked foods, or surgeries can be accommodated. Cancer cells live in a hostile, low-oxygen environment, but still divide and flourish as long as nutrients are available to them. Cancer cells may be regarded as cells that have become independent and have reverted to the status of uncontrolled primitive cells. Cells that live entirely on their own, as do protozoa. The independent cell is focused on its own survival and no longer focused on the survival of the entire organism. The natural hygiene approach to cancer is to remove the poisons from the system that created the cancer cells and created the condition which led to their need to be created. The medical model for dealing with cancer is to apply a known carcinogen, chemotherapy, to the body. Carcinogen means cancer-causing, or to injure the body's healthy tissues through invasive surgery, and to burn the body with radiation. All of these would create disease in a healthy body, but are supposed to help the poisoned body. The end result of trying to treat the body with poisons is what drives iatrogenic medicine to be the third leading cause of death. The fluid nature of disease. The 7 stages of disease are distinct in their characteristics. However, the lines are more or less arbitrarily drawn. This often is necessary for categorization, when one form evolves into another. The dividing lines have no clear-cut delineation. Different parts of the body can be in different stages at different times. The body can move back and forth between stages as elimination occurs or as additional waste is added to the interstitial spaces impacting the cell's ability to perform. After reviewing the 7 stages of disease, it should be obvious that bacteria and viruses do not cause disease. How can they be the cause when they are present in healthy people as well as sick? They are, in fact, a symptom of disease and part of the healing processes of the body. Bacteria inside of our system is under the control of the body at all times. Blaming bacteria for disease is akin to blaming flies for the garbage they are working to break down. The flies didn't put the garbage in place. They are just doing their job in nature to recycle the waste back into usable, smaller materials. The expulsion detoxification symptoms of the body are not diseases to be feared, but solutions created by the body's detoxification systems. If we wish to detoxify our body, we must understand the process by which the cells and the body tissues clean and repair themselves. If we do not understand this process, then we run the risk of following the medical model of poisoning the body until its cleaning processes stop. Every cold or flu we stop with medications, herbs, or remedies pushes our cells one step closer to cancer and ultimately death. Every time we take an anti-inflammatory, we stop the body's detoxification process. Every time we take an antibiotic, whether pharma or natural, we kill the bacteria put in place by our bodies, which are responsible for breaking down poisons and eliminating toxic waste products. Every intervention seeks to suppress the body's own healing process. The only solution is removal of cause. Treatment versus removal of cause. In the medical allopathic model, disease requires treatment. Treatments consist of pharmaceuticals, poisons, radiation, burning the body, surgery, cutting out essential parts of the body, or some combination of these. If a healthy body was subjected to any of these, the healthy body would become ill. But in the medical for-profit model, the poisoning, cutting, and burning of a sick body are meant to be a path back to health. Health could never be maintained under these conditions, but an already weakened, sick body is meant to benefit from these practices that would harm a healthy body. Their track record is, of course, 0 diseases cured, and iatrogenic death is the third leading cause of death. Iatrogenic means induced by the words or actions of the physician. The results speak for themselves. In many natural models like homeopathy, Chinese medicine, herbal medicine, and functional medicine, the same underlying principle is utilized of poisoning away the symptoms. In this case, instead of using a pharmaceutical drug, the natural practitioner poisons their patient with herbs, essential oils, flowers, animal organs, rocks, or other treatments, but the underlying reasoning follows the same track as the allopathic model to suppress the body's own healing process, the symptoms. In the terrain model, or under the direction of the science of natural hygiene, disease is remedied by the removal of cause. The hygienist cares for the sick in the same way that he would treat a healthy individual whom he wanted to keep healthy. The medical model cares for the sick by applying various poisons to an already poisoned body in a vain attempt to poison the body back to health. Their medications would take a person in a state of health into a state of disease, but the medical rationale is the poison is in the dose. Health cannot be achieved through poisoning, no matter the stage of disease. Health can only be achieved by providing conditions conducive to health. The diseased person was not suffering from a deficiency of poison, but an excess of poisons. A person who maintains health throughout their life is not supplementing with poison to retain their health for fear of a deficit of poison. Healing occurs by subtraction. When a person has a backlog of work, they do not solve the problem by saying yes to several new projects. Instead, they focus on removing things from their schedule so they can focus on completing the projects quickly and efficiently. If you want to make a hoarder's house more livable, you do not attack the project by adding more clutter to the home. You begin by removing the clutter layer by layer. Similarly, when our body requires healing, we do not facilitate that healing by adding things to the body. We cannot take substances to speed up detox or to assist detox in any way. As I mentioned earlier, substances are inert, which means dead. And that means that they cannot take action. Only the body takes action against the substance. Each substance going into the body then occasions a specific amount of work or burden. Our natural foods that are perfectly designed for our physiology require very little work. They digest cleanly and quickly. They provide valuable nutrition to the cells in the correct form for immediate use. They provide water to hydrate the body and the interstitial spaces, and they provide essential fiber to give the digestive muscles bulk to push against. They are in perfect alignment with the needs of our bodies. On the opposite end, non-foods, drugs, herbs, irritants, and other stimulants all burden the body. They require an all-hands-on-deck red alert response from the body, which requires the body to rapidly expend its energy. Rather than helping the body to detox, these substances marketed as detoxing the body are in fact impairing the body's ability to clean and heal, because energy must be directed into the removal of that substance rather than the cleaning and repair of the body. In the next section of the video, we are going to be covering how we lift the burden to prevent and reverse disease. Understanding how disease is created and reversed will only take us so far. We must also have an understanding of how to determine the causes of our disease burden and how to lift that burden and thrive. Luckily, the causes of disease are all well known today, and we don't have to do a lot of digging. This subject matter and how all of these needs of life are determined is another presentation to itself, so I will just briefly cover the core needs of life in this presentation. In order to maintain a body in a state of health, we must provide the conditions conducive to health. Natural hygiene has scientifically observed and recorded the 19 core factors that are required to maintain a body in a state of health. These include pure air, pure water, cleanliness, both internal and external, sleep, temperature maintenance, a diet of whole, pure foods, which we are biologically adapted, exercise and activity, sunshine upon our bodies, rest and relaxation, play and recreation, emotional poise, security of life and its means, pleasant environment, creative, useful work, self-mastery, belonging, motivation, expression of the natural instincts, and indulgence of aesthetic senses. Diet is the greatest factor. In order to maintain the body in a state of pristine physical and mental health, we must meet all of the needs of life, but none is more important and none has greater impact than our diet. The meals we eat, 3 meals per day, 365 days per year, are the deciding factor of whether we will have long-term health or disease. Digestion, assimilation, and elimination of food is the greatest overall workload on the cells. The further we stray from the natural foods that our body was designed to consume in their most natural state, the greater our conditions of disease will be. As a frugivorous species, our natural foods are whole, raw fruits and tender, sweet, leafy greens eaten in abundance, with small amounts of nuts, seeds, and tender vegetables. Any straying from these foods will occasion the buildup of waste and lead to symptoms of disease. Any cooking, blending, juicing, or otherwise damaging these foods prior to consumption will inhibit their digestion, breaking down the enzymes used for digestion, altering the minerals from organic to inorganic, and limiting the nutrition by oxidation. Our food should be predominantly eaten in their whole, raw form. Our natural foods do not create discomfort. Our foods can be determined by our senses. The natural foods of man will be sweet and pleasant in their whole form. Sitting down to a full meal of just one ingredient will be a pleasant experience. Our natural foods will not be bitter, spicy, sour, or salty. Our senses are designed to tell us when our natural foods are properly ripe, sweet, or unripe and not to be eaten, sour. Our senses are also designed to warn us of poisons in plants, so bitter, spicy, sour, and salty, or any sense of discomfort warns us away from an unsuitable food. For example, onions contain a toxic oil. Our body warns us even before we try to eat them by releasing water from our eyes to protect our delicate eye tissues. Cayenne pepper, a favorite in the health community, is an irritant. Our body warns us of this by making our nose run and releasing mucus to protect the delicate tissues of the nose and throat from the volatile oils present in the spicy pepper. Lifting the burden. Healing is ultimately not about the foods we eat, but the things we don't eat. There are no magic foods that will heal our body, as no food has the ability to take any action. The body takes all actions. Food is either a burden on the body, overworking the cells, dehydrating the body, and burdening the body with harmful inorganic minerals, which harden our tissues, or food is a useful building material that the body can utilize efficiently and effectively. As such, the true key to healing is not in what we eat, but in how we eat, and when we don't eat, and when we allow for rest. In fact, the most effective way to heal is doing nothing intelligently. Now, that does not mean you take no action and just continue on in the practices that created the disease. On the contrary, it means you stop putting everything into the body except for fresh, clean water, and you allow the body's detoxification processes to complete their processes without interference, without drugging, and without putting more food into the body for it to process. Correcting the diet and lifestyle factors is essential to health, but utilizing water fasting responsibly is how the body is able to catch up on years and decades worth of waste. In the next section of the video, we're going to be discussing therapeutic fasting. It is important also to make a clear distinction between fasting and starving. The word starve is derived from the Old English word sturfen, which means pestilence, mortality. Therefore, to starve is to die. And this is what will quickly happen if nutritional reserves are exhausted. Therefore, we must fully understand that fasting represents a process of utilizing nutritional reserves while abstaining from eating, which is not starvation. We must enter into fasting properly educated to use this healing tool responsibly and effectively. Conversely, starvation represents a state where the nutritional reserves have been exhausted and the organism's vital tissues are rapidly being broken down. One can starve to death while eating daily of nutritionally devoid substances. One can also survive 40 days of religious fasting, consuming nothing but water while returning their body to a state of health. Every animal in nature utilizes fasting as a healing process. Dogs and cats have been known to fast 30 to 50 days to heal from injuries. Wolves have been observed taking to their den to rest and fast for weeks after a fight in which injury has sustained. Every species has retained its natural instinct to fast except for humans, primarily because we eat so far from our natural design that the moment we let the body rest, uncomfortable cleaning symptoms arise immediately. We are also fasting averse because our society rewards the abuse of the body. Cake and pizza for a child's birthday, alcohol to celebrate anything, even the end of the workday, and our society also discourages healthy behaviors like eating fruits and vegetables. Feed your child McDonald's and no one will question their nutrition despite their food being devoid of nutrition. But feed them fruits and vegetables in their whole, raw, natural form, abundant in nutrients, and suddenly everyone is concerned about them not getting enough nutrition. Fasting represents a physiological rest, and to make this point more lucid, we may look at the process of bioenergetics. When we consume food, the initial process is of ingestion, the placing of food into the mouth. This is followed by the process of mastication and swallowing, as the food initially prepared within the oral cavity departs for the stomach, where it is once again acted upon by the mechanical pressures of the muscular contractions of the stomach wall, combined with the chemical effect of the secreted products referred to as gastric juice. After a period of time ranging from 1 to several hours, the food is then actively transported into the duodenum, where it undergoes further mechanical and chemical processing before it traverses the canal to a point where it may be absorbed, a process referred to as active transport. Whatever remains behind travels through the tract to the bowel and is expelled. The nutrients which have been absorbed are circulated and processed by the liver and other organs. Some may be stored and others directed to the cells for utilization. If we look closely at this whole process, we will observe that ingestion, mastication, transport, gastric secretion and mobility, intestinal secretion and activity, bowel action, absorption, circulation, storage, distribution, and final assimilation within the cell are energy-expensive processes, right to the point where the molecules of the nutrients are enzymatically broken down and energy is liberated. Right to this point, energy has been expended. We can now see that in fasting, much of this energy does not have to be expended. In fact, it is conserved. First, the nutrients are already in the body. Although they may be stored and subject to reconversion, they are nevertheless beyond the point of absorption and are therefore more easily available to the body with minimum energy expenditure. At the same time, another grand process of the body is elimination. That is the particular process by which metabolic toxins, byproducts of normal bodily processes, are eliminated from the body. As discussed earlier, the body is constantly producing toxins. These are substances that are the end result of the body's metabolic processes, and it is essential that these are removed from the tissues and the blood as rapidly as they are produced. This is the process of elimination, which is accomplished largely by the kidneys in producing urine, by the liver in producing bile, and by the lungs in exchanging gaseous wastes. In this total process, then, we can argue that fasting represents a physiological rest, in that less energy is required for the utilization of nutrients when fasting than under normal conditions of feeding, and that as a consequence, more energy is available for the restorative and recuperative effort that the body is to make, which involves increased elimination, among many other processes. Returning our bodies to a state of health does not need to be difficult or complicated. It does not require that we spend a lot of money or seek out treatments. It requires only that we observe the laws of life and return to those natural practices which have been rigorously studied by the science of natural hygiene. By realigning ourselves with nature's laws, we allow for the return to the normal and correct operation of our body. So that's it. Thank you, everyone, for your interest and for listening today. This has been a rough overview of how our bodies work and how and why disease is formed, its predictable patterns, and how we can help support our bodies. And of course, why it's imperative to treat disease by supporting the body instead of medicating and suppressing the symptoms. I hope this has helped you all understand some of the history of the natural health movement and how it differs fundamentally from the medical model. Some of these concepts may be difficult to understand at first, as they differ from the disease for profit model we have all been raised on. Sometimes this makes us uncomfortable, as the search for truth is often uncomfortable. You can find more information about these topics in the Terrain Model Refutes Germ Theory Facebook group, as well as at therawkey.com, where you can also reach out to me for consultations for humans or pets. If you're interested in learning more about the topics discussed today, the science of natural hygiene and the natural species-appropriate diet for humans, as well as the species-appropriate diets I use to heal my rescue dogs and cats, you can find more resources and free guides at therawkey.com. If you found today's video helpful, I hope that you will like, share with others, and subscribe to our channel for more videos on achieving superior health. If you have additional questions or you want to get answers about your specific health issues or concerns, I do offer affordable consultations. You can learn more about them at therawkey.com/consultations. If you're ready to take control of your health but not sure how to begin, or if you need a support system to help you transition and stay on track, then we offer a monthly support group that starts on the 1st of every month. In the group, you will be guided by myself and 2 other experts in the subject matter. We also include a recipe book with over 100 recipes, meal plans, grocery lists, and other helpful content to help you stay on track, deal with the cravings, and learn more about how your body operates at the same time. All of the links will be available in the video description below. Thank you for watching today. Eat fruit and be well, my friends.